Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I am PANCZASU, the mighty Mega Spammer, introducing Planetary Annihilation, perfect timing, just what I like. Now, as in with all my videos from introducing series, this video is supposed to show you what this game is all about, and usually it is also going to explain why I like it or why I believe that it is worthy of your attention. Now, something I need to stress out, I've been trying and wanting to make this videocast for, I don't know, weeks at the very least, but I've been never able to do that because of either technical difficulties or other reasons that I'm not going to bore you with. Planetary Annihilation is something that I helped kickstart a while back, a long time ago, and I've been given early beta access as soon as beta has started, which was quite a while ago. But unfortunately, yet again, I was unable to show you this videocast anytime sooner. This game is a real-time strategy game, similar to Spring Commander or Total Annihilation, except it has planets. But this is something that I'll talk about once we get into the game itself. Something I need to stress out is that this introduction is recorded after the footage itself has been recorded, so well, once we get into the game, this is going to be something that I recorded before I recorded this introduction. Not like it's anything important, but I think I needed to stress this out. Right now what you can do in beta is play with other players or play against AI. For the purpose of this video alone, I decided to play against AI because this resulted in a more reliable game that I was sure I would be able to finish without anybody disconnecting or me being the disconnector. Unfortunately, the problem with this beta is that you need to be constantly online in order to play it, which is normal DRM for games that are in a closed beta when the devs do not want everybody to be able to play something that only a few chosen ones are allowed to play. Now, when you want to set up a game, you have to choose how many players are going to play in it, and you can also generate a system or actually load a pre-made system. Then you publish a game, and then you take it takes a second for the game to realize you did that. You join something and then wait for other human players to join or for the AIs to do nothing, and then you wait for the system to generate. When there's a red light, it is not yet generated. You usually want to wait until there's a green light, and then you can start the game without the fear of supreme lag and other issues you would normally encounter if you were to launch the game so quickly. I'm not going to do that just yet, simply because I already recorded the footage, so it's not really all that important. Now, something else that I need to mention before we actually start the game itself. Yes, I now remember what I wanted to mention. It is the fact that I had a very cool replay recorded, but unfortunately, this is something that I'll talk a little bit later. I had it deleted, so this is the primary reason why I had to play against the AI, because I couldn't be bothered to play a long game against humans again and then lose the footage again. I mean, I'm sure you understand. Anything else? Yes, this game, yet again, I need to stress this out, is in beta, where everything you see is not final and is suspect to change. I'll talk yet again more about it once we get into the game itself, so how about I stop talking and actually let you see the in-game footage. Stay tuned for the action. Alright, we are now in game, and what you're looking at is the replay interface, which you can only access unfortunately right after you finished a game. If you quit the end game summary, then you are unable to watch a replay. This is of course yet again because the game is in beta, and obviously in the future you will be able to watch all the replays as well as replays from other players. Right now, however, I do not think there is an option to do that. There used to be one, now there isn't. So, first thing is first, what on earth is this game all about? Well, to some of you the interface might look quite familiar indeed, and this would be most likely because it is very similar, for obvious reasons, to the interface from either Total Annihilation or Supreme Commander, which is a game that most of you is probably familiar. I'll be completely honest with you, I have not played Total Annihilation, but I have played Supreme Commander for a very long time, and I have some decent knowledge of that game. Now in here, things go relatively similar. First of all, you've got two resources that you have to take care of. First is metal, and the second is energy. So it's basically the same as in Spring Commander, except there it used to be called mass. Or maybe now, there, in Supreme Commander it used to be mass, here it is metal. Alright, I'm not missing anything up, I think. And the game starts also in a similar way. Every player is given a commander unit, which is named Alpha, Delta, Beta, or something along those lines, and they use it to, well, it can fight, but sending it just to fight another commander unit would be a little bit silly, because this would result in one of the commanders blowing up, thus killing the other, and thus both players losing a commander, whereas the third one, if it's a 3-player game, can laugh at the 2 losers that were dumb enough to actually kill each other. So what you can do instead with your commander is make structures. As you can see, I'm mostly focusing on my perspective and showing you what I'm doing, and I'm starting by ordering my commander to make 2 metal extractors, a vehicle factory, and another metal extractor, and an energy plant. This is not the usual kind of build order that I start the game with, but then again, because I spawned in a place where there were not too many metal sources nearby, I decided that it's a good idea to first make 2 metal extractors and then start by making some units. And by units I mean I could create either units that can help me build, which is something vastly important because they can build more stuff than the commander, or I could create scouts, which is something I did, and I did send those scouts to other places on the map to discover where the AI is. I discovered this AI right here quite quickly and early on for obvious reasons, because he was very close by. This is not something that usually happens in this game, but I'll get to that in a second. Alright, now the other thing that is relatively important is something that I already forgot what it was, so that's a little bit embarrassing, I've got to admit, but whatever. So the thing is, you can only make metal extractors on metal sources, indicated by the green dots, and because the game is still in beta, it is kinda buggy, so you cannot always make extractors on those green dots. For example, over here it looks like you could make an extractor, but you cannot. And also those green dots also sometimes spawn in areas where they are not supposed to spawn, like for example right here they are all spawning inside this giant pit, and there is no way anybody can make extractors on top of those metal sources, which is a little bit sad, but at the same time, it again, beta is beta, so it's not like we should be expecting anything else. So the start of the game, what you usually should be doing is establish your economy, because it's fairly tricky to do so at the start. You are quite susceptible to, you know, having shortages of metal or energy. So what you tend to do is send some of your builders out, start capturing some more metal extractors, making some more energy plants, and securing them with some basic defense in the form of missile defense there. Now, you might be wondering how on earth does the resource system work in this game. I'll explain it to you gladly. It's fairly simple in fact, because the only thing you need to know is that over here is the amount of resources that you currently have and the amount of resources that you can have at maximum. So as you can see, maximum is to the right and the current amount of resources you've got is to the left. And those bars fill up as you gain and gather resources, or they can also go down as you're losing them. You can go into deficit. If that happens, then you will not be able to use your resources optimally, which usually means that the build time for everything is significantly higher, which is a little bit annoying, because in this game build time is something that you need to watch out for constantly. Now the other thing is, well, those things to the right, they indicate your current metal and energy surplus, or they indicate that you're currently losing them at a faster rate than you're making them. For example, right now I'm using more energy than I'm making, but considering the amount of energy I have stored up, it is not really a big deal and not something that I should really take care of. As you can see, I'm right now trying to set up a base, making some early units, because I did scout out that the enemy has a base nearby, so I thought I could make a couple of tanks and try and deal some damage, trying to do what I can. Now, those early game tanks, they are quite fragile, I mean extremely fragile, and they stand no chance in fighting against the enemy commanders, but regardless, they're quite decent at the strength sectors. The thing that I'm not too sure if I like in this game, in Planetary Annihilation, is that it feels like everything has an armor made of paper, or that everything hits like a truck. Either of those two apply, really, because everything there so quickly, it's just incredible. I mean, I'm comparing this to my experience from Supreme Commander, and I swear in Supreme Commander, it took a little bit longer for your units to die. Yes, they were quite squishy considering the amount of firepower you're able to pull off against them, but not this squishy, I think. It might just be my imagination, but I think this is really the case. The other thing that I need to say about this game, comparing it to Supreme Commander, which is something I'll be doing a lot, mind you. There is a very good reason for this. It's because those two games are, for obvious reasons, very similar to each other, and thus we need to have a good, valid reason to buy this game when we could instead just play Supreme Commander. I mean, Supreme Commander is kinda dated, but from a graphical standpoint, yes, what you're looking at right now is not the highest graphics option enabled. That's because when recording with fraps, it takes a whole load more of resources from my computer to actually do anything, as in record the footage and maintain a stable frame rate. So I had to tone those settings down a little bit. But then again, it is still in beta, so after the game is released, I expect there to be some performance optimizations enabled, and that this game will run quite a bit more smoothly. And OMG, all of a sudden music! Now this is fairly annoying because we did not hear any music before that, so I have to edit some music in, as well as disable it as soon as we can hear this music. Quite annoying. So what you have seen right there is where my tanks destroying metal extractor and then being completely obliterated by the enemy commander. As you can see, the commander possesses quite a bit. You know, he's got quite a bit of firepower, but right now the AI on this part of the map is not doing a single thing. That's because, unfortunately, the AI sometimes is quite literally brain dead and is not doing a single thing. This guy could be making structures to make more structures and some builders and more structures that those builders could make with structures and that make some builders that could make structures. But he's not doing any of those things, which is rather annoying, and this means that most of this game will be played between me and the Red AI, which is doing a substantially better job. As you can see, it already has multiple factories enabled and working, which allows the AI to create even more builders that can then make more structures. And as I said, it is the circle of life that is never ending in this type of game, where the more builders you've got, the better, because they can just make you continuously gain more and more resources. Now, the thing that I'm not too happy about in this game is the tech scaling. After you gain your first builders that you get from factory, they can make advanced versions of factories, and from those advanced versions of factories, you can make advanced builders. And with those advanced builders, you can create advanced structures. So far, it's fairly logical, right? So, for example, they can make advanced metal extractors that give you 28 metal instead of 7, so that's 4 times better. Problem is, if you have normal metal extractors already in place, you cannot upgrade them to being better. That's something that I assume the developers will have to work on, because otherwise it will become quite silly. As in, right now, what I want to happen is to just the enemy to destroy my old metal extractors so that I can replace them with the advanced ones, because they're just so much better. That's also why in the early game, I usually tend to not try and grab as many metal extractors as possible, because I know that in the future, I will want to be able to make those advanced extractors, whereas I wouldn't be able to do so if I had made some non-advanced extractors. I hope you're following me so far, because I know for sure I'm not doing the best job at explaining. So the start of the game is a little bit slow. That's usually what is the case in Planetary Annihilation. Reason for that is very simple. You play on planets. This is one of the biggest changes and differences between this game and, for example, Supreme Commander, because those are planets. They are spheres. I guess that's not typically a sphere. There's some kind of fancy name for a planetary-like shape, because they're not exactly spherical, but that's not really important. Anyway, there are spheres for all sorts, for all means of purpose, intent, for all. Okay, let me try and say this again, because my English is failing right now. For all that you should care, those are spheres. So the attack could come from any direction, and this changes the gameplay quite drastically. Also, if you want to keep your sanity, maintain your sanity at a decent level, I encourage everybody to, in the settings option, enable the limitation so that cameras are blocked at the south and north pole, because otherwise you can get horribly confused by the camera panning. I'm not going to show it to you because unfortunately you cannot edit the settings of the game in-game, because it doesn't crash the game, but it makes it take like an hour to reload all the settings, which is rather annoying. Now, as you can see, base defenses, they can withstand the firepower for quite a bit longer than units, but they are also nothing when attacked by a big amount of units, like for example right over here. So the enemy attacked me from an area that I did not expect them to attack me from, and I'm forced to send all of my units back to defend, whereas before I wanted to just send them to finish off the green AI. Which is not really a big problem, because as you can see, I can soak up all of this damage with my commander. Yes, he's going to be a little bit damaged, but I know that in every game, the enemy probably doesn't have too many bombers or anything to finish my commander off. Instead of getting commander, it was usually a solid strategy to just make a battle with bombers early on and use them to snipe the enemy commander. If he was not properly defended, this would win you the game, because once somebody loses commander, as I said, he loses the game as well. So this guy is still stuck. Wow, this is so sad, he's not doing a single thing. I didn't know he didn't do a single thing. It felt like he did, but apparently he didn't. That's a little bit sad. I'm also quite annoyed because I lost the replay of a really epic game. It was 5-player 3-4-0. So epic. Nukes everywhere. Iron cannons everywhere. We didn't even spread to other planets because we were so focused on keeping everybody on one planet, and it was an amazing action. But I lost the replay because unfortunately after the game ended, the game quit to end main menu without letting me watch the replay, which is again something that you should expect from a beta product, because it is yet again a beta. Alrighty then, now what you can see is I'm scanning ahead with my army, doing a silly little thing by sending my anti-air units up to the front, which is not something you're supposed to do because they just die so quickly and they cannot attack land units anyway. So what I'm going to do is let my ants, which are my tanks, go first, and then they will cover and act as a meat shield for my spinners, which will not matter at all because the enemy just has so many more units, and this music is really loud. I did do some sound tests, but I really hope that my voice is going to be louder than the music, because unfortunately, because of the recording method I went with, I will not be able to alter my own voice post-recording. That's because when I started recording, before making some sound tests, I noticed that the music is not playing in replays. So I thought it will never play in mid-replays, but apparently it is sometimes playing, which is very annoying, I have to admit. I was hoping that this would not be the case, but right now it is, I guess, a little bit too late. And I'm certainly not remaking this videocast. I've been trying to make it for so many times. I'm right now sick of making videocasts for Planetary Annihilation. I'll make them again in the future, don't worry about that. But, you know, I just want to get this first introducing video out to the YouTube, because otherwise I'll just go insane by not being able to make a video like this. Don't worry, more interesting videos are going to come in the future. Right now I want to talk a little bit more about the game mechanics. So right now what you can see, what is happening to me, is I'm stagnating a little bit because my energy consumption rate is much higher than my energy production. What I'm trying to do is make an advanced energy plant which creates a whole ton of energy, and by that I mean 5,000 energy, which is more than enough to fix my energy problems. But before I make that, production of everything is much slower because I can only produce my units using the energy I'm producing instead of the energy I've got in my bank, which is usually a smaller amount because, you know, in a bank you can have millions of energy units stored, whereas I'm just creating 2,800 energy units, which is reliably a much smaller amount for obvious reasons. Alright. So what else did I want to talk about? Well, yet again, one of the key features of Planetary Annihilation is the fact that we are playing this thing on a planet. So when I zoom out, sometimes this thing it doesn't really work out that well. So when I zoom out, thank you game, you can see that this is in fact a system, a planetary system. It can have way more planets than that. They can have moons, those moons can have moons, and those moons can also have moons if you set this up properly. Those planets can be positioned like many light years away from the sun, or they can be relatively close to the sun. Actually, those are not light years, those are astronomical units. I messed up. Whatever. Sorry. So that's about the deals, and after you gain a sufficient level of technology, you can get interplanetary transportation units that can transport your units from one planet to the other. Usually what you want to transport either advanced fabrication units or your commanders themselves to another planet, and then start building another base over there. And then it becomes a huge, you know, multitasking task for you. So you've got to multitask things on one planet, one multitasking things on another planet, and then maybe on another planet as well. It requires a lot of queuing up, trust me, and it can get very hectic indeed. And there can also be battles in space, because there are orbital fighters, but that's only one kind of unit in space, so you don't have to worry about that too much. As you can see, you can learn how many metal spots are on every planet quite easily, which is something that you need to consider when you want to colonize another planet. You can colonize planets either because they have more metal spots, so you can create your powerful economy over there. You can just run away from your planet to any other planet in case you feel like you need to do so, or you can find a very small planet, because what you can do then is attach giant engines to set small planet and then crash this small planet into a bigger planet to create a giant boom, which is a very satisfying sight, I have to admit. I've seen it twice only, I believe, even though I've been playing beta for quite a long time. I've only seen it twice, but it looks... it is very satisfying, let's just put it this way. It does require a lot of effort, so don't be mistaken as that. Alright, so what you can see right now is I'm setting a forward defense with an advanced laser defense tower, which is very powerful. I mean, if the enemy tries to come through, which they will at some point, this thing will just obliterate them because it has a very nice rate of fire, and it will basically one-shot everything that comes near, and you are going to see that for yourself relatively quickly. Right now it is getting support fire from missile defense tower, but soon enough this laser defense tower is going to do the job by itself. And as you can see, sometimes the pathing is an issue in this game, yet again in this beta, but I expect this to be severely improved later on down the line, because if those units did not line up and all just tried to come at my turret, they probably wouldn't be able to destroy it because it's too advanced for them, but they would be able to deal some more damage. In fact, there's so many of them over here, they may have been able to even maybe destroy it, which is quite important. Obviously then my commander would have finished the enemy units off, but still you get the idea. Alright, I believe I've shown you everything that I need to show you in the mid-game, so what I'm going to do is pause the recording and show you the destruction of a commander, which will happen relatively soon, but I don't want to keep you waiting, since this video, guys, is not supposed to be too long anyway. So be right back. Alright, we are back. I skipped through the replay, and you're about to see the annihilation of the enemy AI. I have no idea that it is so non-defeated. If I knew, then I would send a couple of suicide tanks to kill this commander and then take over all of his base, because there's quite a few meta extractors in your bind that I could have used, but I didn't, just because I had no idea that this guy is actually stuck on terrain. This can happen, it is AI after all. This game is meant to be played on multiplayer, but unfortunately the problem is there are only servers in the United States or in Australia, and if you live in Europe and you have full internet connection like I do, you may have some problems with that. And I do mean some real problems. Sometimes I just lag so badly I have to leave a game because it's unspeakably bad. Yet again, it is beta, it is something that I guess will be fixed as soon as we get some more dedicated servers. So what you just witnessed is an annihilation. And annihilation is the act of destroying the enemy commander. This commander died. Not only he managed to blow up in quite an incredible fashion, destroying a lot of things around him, but it also means that green AI is out of the game. So even if they had like 25 more bases on 5 different planets, destroying a commander would be enough to kill him, which is why you always want to protect your commanders quite badly and to make sure that they do not die. I'm going to pause the game once again so that we get to a later game as I reach some of the conclusions I have on the state of the game thus far. Stay tuned. Alright, not too much time has passed, but I'm about to attack with a relatively small army, which is not going to succeed, as you can see from the progress bar of this replay, but it is going to deal a reasonable amount of damage. My base has also developed in quite a reasonable way. I'm producing units from all 3 of my factories, which is something I'm actually not doing at the time for unspeakable reasons. I'm expanding to an old AS base and setting up some radars and base defenses over there to make sure that I'm protected, which is, as you can see, very helpful because the enemy did attack me with a bunch of bombers, which are way less effective than a Spring Commander from what I remember. I'm also making an orbital launcher, which is what you need in order to go to space, which is a very awesome structure. And meanwhile, I'm also attacking with my tanks, which is going to be, as I said, an unsuccessful attack, but still it is going to look very nice. I've got a mixed army of Tier 1 and Tier 2 units, and this is usually a pretty good idea. Tier 1 units are excellent cannon fodder because you usually have like a billion of them, while Tier 2 units are exceptional at destroying every enemy, everything, and also can take quite a bit of a beating. Also, the AI is sort of drunk and cannot hit a single small guy, but then again, beta is beta, it does sometimes happen, and it's relatively amusing when it happens. So anyway, some of the things I will tell you about some of my worries about this game. So, Planetary Annihilation is supposed to come out in more or less 2 months' time. Okay? Does this game look like it is ready to come out? No, not in my eyes. It looks like a beta, it is beta, and I'll defend it as long as it's beta, but if we get something along those lines in 2 months as a finished game, then I will no longer be happy that I helped kickstart this game, because this is still ways to go. This game requires a few more months of work in my eyes in order to make it, you know, a bit more interesting. I'm not even talking about performance issues, of which there are plenty. I'm talking about the gameplay mechanics themselves. For example, this game lacks a little bit of character, which is something I do not really care about too much. But for example, there's only one faction you can play as, so there's no uniqueness to anybody, which is a little bit of a problem. And it feels like there's a lot of things that could be made a little bit more interesting. I mean, when I think about, yet again, Supreme Commander, then there are those shield generators, which just made the game so much more interesting in my eyes. There were multiple types of interesting units. I mean, there are those bricks from the cyborg guys. I don't remember the name of the faction because it has been so long, but you know what I mean. There are assault bots, there are siege tanks that can go underwater, there were siege tanks that had shields on them, or bots that had shields on them, or artillery that is better against some things or against others. There were anti-air artilleries as well. Plenty of everything. And I'm not even mentioning about the experimental. Units as well, which were like the best thing about Supreme Commander. I mean, having those giant bots that are bigger than most bases and destroying everything, this was awesome, to say the least. Also, now I'm quite certain that those 3 units are fake, because they were not here when I was playing this game, so that's a bug with the replay system. So I guess it's good to know that there are some bugs like this. It happens, it happens. So anyway, this is my biggest worry about the game. It lacks not only character, but also some of more compelling gameplay ideas that could easily be implemented in my eyes. I mean, the fact that there is only one faction, I guess, could be excused. It is good for balance, and I could understand that, but there are just not too many interesting options that you can go for. Sure, being able to just launch one planet into the other is awesome, and it is a cool gimmick, but it's the only cool gimmick, really. I mean, there are also nukes and ion cannons, but I would love to be able to... I would love to see some more variety in terms of units. Yes, there are bots, vehicles, air units, and naval units, but I would like to see some more interesting ideas for said units. Right now, those are just like a unit that can attack other ground units, or a unit that can attack other air units, or an artillery unit, and that's about it. They vary in terms of speed, and that's about it. So really, more things could be done in my eyes to make this game way more interesting than it currently is. Don't get me wrong, seeing giant battles with tons of explosions is cool, but this is something that Supreme Commander was just doing better, and if I had to choose between the two games, I'd probably choose Supreme Commander. No offense to Planetary Annihilation, which I am still very hopeful about. It is a game that, as I said, I helped kickstart, and I hope that it is going to be awesome. So far, I'm seeing a lot of awesome things about it, and I think it has a ton of potential, especially with the multi-planet aspect of this game. Now, something else that I needed to talk about, and it is the fact that the game also doesn't look the best. I mean, this is something I think I already mentioned, but it really doesn't. Obviously, graphics as well as optimization is something that will be addressed at the end of the beta rather than in the middle, but well, I mean, according to the schedule, we are nearing the end of the beta, and Supreme Commander just looked better. Obviously, I can understand that this game is not supposed to look too good. I mean, when you force a computer to render multiple planets, all of them looking awesome, then it could get quite hectic. I mean, once you have even one planet which is sufficiently big and overpopulated by a couple of players or making billion units at once, it can be quite tanky for your processor and the graphics card, I have to admit. But right now it doesn't look special at all. It is the least important problem, and I have basically no issue with the game looking the way it does look. But I just thought I should point this out right now, because it is something that some people will probably worry about. I don't care about this too much, but it is still something that could be, in my eyes, improved a little bit, and it will probably be improved. But the most pressing concern is the idea of this game just lacking character to it, in both gameplay mechanics and visual mechanics and faction mechanics and any other type of mechanics. This is something that I believe those devs should really focus on, because it is something that needs to change, it needs to be improved, because this game, it is just a potential masterpiece. It has so much potential, I cannot believe it, and it should be better, and I believe that it will be better if the release date is pushed back by a reasonable amount. I mean, at least a couple more months are needed in order to make this game fabulous. It is on a good way, and it will be fabulous in my eyes at some point in time, but it is not yet ready, and it will definitely not be ready in just 2 months' time. I do not believe this is even possible, even if the developers will go like, and they could be gone like, they are doing quite a decent job at convincing me that they are, but I'm not too convinced that they actually are gone like, so I'm yet to see evidence of that. But anyway, I'm not going to make this cast any longer, because you're not going to see any amazing action. This is going to be a one-sided stump. I'm going to be able to snap the enemy AI, enemy commander with... Was it a nuke? It was either a nuke or an orbiter ion cannon. I don't really remember that. Actually, you know what? I might as well show you the nuke, but I guess it doesn't really matter. No, it doesn't really matter, it's just a short video, and I guess there are so many Planetary Annihilation videos on the web, you'll be able to search for them yourself. And I would much rather save cool explosions for a video that I'll actually care about. Right now, it's not like I do not care about this videocast, but this is just my introducing series. It is here to It is here so that you can learn about a little bit about this game and figure out if you're interested in this kind of content on my channel or not. I can show you some way better videocasts that I'll also optimize much better. So, did I just hear a new golf? Oh no, it's just being built and it is a game bug. It's right now playing the nuke launch sound even though it isn't actually being launched. That's okay though, yet again, replay system is a little bit dodgy, but this is not something that I'm not going to excuse, because obviously things like that do happen. So anyway, it was PANCZASU the Mighty Mixpire. If you somehow managed to enjoy my videocast and introduction to Planetary Annihilation, then please by all means leave a comment if you have a Google Plus account, because otherwise you will not be able to do that. Even I am unable to do that, unfortunately. I'll probably fix this at some point in time. Right now I'm trying to boycott the Google Plus for as long as I can hold, for as long as I can. But leaving a like still helps, and it is something that you do not need a Google account to do. So please leave a like. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you online. And there's my cool laser platform. Oh boy, this is awesome. Anyway, yet again, thank you for watching, and I guess I'll need to stop repeating myself, so I'll just say bye.